Joining us now to talk more about the Biden administration's current immigration policies and failures is former acting CBP commissioner and visiting fellow of the Heritage Foundation, Mark Morgan. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you back on. Mexico's president called Joe Biden, quote, the migrant president, which has only added to the problem at our southern border. How do you think the Biden administration failed to see this happening before Inauguration Day, January 20th?
Rob, that's the question. I hope your listeners are paying attention to that. And look, this is what I've said. Look, I've been serving this country for 35 years. You know, so from a sovereignty perspective, from a rule of law perspective, it makes no sense. So at the end of the day, the only thing that makes sense is they let their ideologic hubris and their perceived political benefit from this drive what is happening right now. And look, Rob, this is very important. Not only prior to election did we warn everyone that if they instituted the rhetoric they said they would during the campaign, we would see this crisis. But after the election, during the transition team, we warned the Biden transition team again and again and again, exhaustive, intensive briefings that we told them if they did what they've done, that this is exactly what would happen, and they ignored the experts.
And here we are, 62 days into the Biden administration. Check that, 63 days, and it's getting worse by the day. I read an op-ed that you put out in The Hill recently. You said that President Biden's, quote, border crisis is making America a sanctuary country. How much worse do you think this is going to get before it gets better? I saw one official on the border in Texas commented yesterday we could be dealing with this, like it is right now, for another year.
That's absolutely right. Look, we still have at least three and a half months of peak illegal immigration season. But look, all that's going to be blown out the window as long as the borders remain open and this country's facilitating illegal entry. And it's going to keep getting worse. And look, your listeners don't have to listen to me on that. I'm asking them, please pay attention to the truth and the facts. Last month, 100,000 in a single month.
Wow. This
month in March, you're going to see that eclipse to 120, 130,000. The daily averages continue to increase. The last 10 days, they had a single day apprehension numbers of over 6,000. It's getting worse by the day. It's not getting better. And look, at the end of the day, this is where we need states to step up and challenge the unconstitutional, unlawful policies of this administration, like Texas, like the AG and governor is doing right now.
The Biden administration is not allowing any press access. Donald Trump did, Barack Obama did, George Bush did. But U.S. Customs and Border Protection did finally release some photos and video from one of those processing centers. Take a look at this. This is in Texas. The footage was, it was disturbing, to say the least. Don't forget, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. But like they say, don't believe your lying eyes. This is exactly what the left claimed was happening under President Trump. This is, in fact, happening right now under the Biden administration.
Rob, that's exactly correct. And look, those images were very similar to what we saw in 2019. The difference is, in 2019, the Trump administration and myself and all the other entities involved in this were loud and clear that it was a crisis. It was a crisis in 2019. That's why we developed the tools and the network of policies and authorities to address the crisis, to stop scenes like that. And this administration, again, ignored every warning, every indication, every advice from the experts, and they dismantled and removed every effective tool, and they caused this crisis, and they caused that scene to happen. It's unconscionable, and they should be being called out for it. Instead, they're continuing to lie to the American people that they're actually not seeing what they're seeing.
Yeah, and I understand why you're so passionate. When you were running the CBP, this was not the case. Matter of fact, this wasn't the case 63 days ago when Donald Trump was still president until noon Eastern on Inauguration Day. But now Democrats are starting to turn on the president. Maybe not really prominent Democrats. We've seen one Texas congressman and the Democratic mayor of Del Rio, Texas, called out Joe Biden. He asked him, quote, he said, whose side are you on? So my question, when do you expect the president to actually leave 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and fly down there and see what's going on for himself?
You mean exactly like former President Trump did?
Right, more than once. Yeah.
That's exactly right, Rob. I personally traveled with the president, down to the border on multiple occasions where he stood and he answered questions, some softball questions, some hardball questions from the right, the left. Advocates stood there strong and answered all the questions to explain and justify exactly what we were doing. This president needs to do exactly the same thing and try to explain to the American people why he dismantled a system that was effectively managing the crisis on the southwest border and has now caused the crisis that we're in right now. That needs to come from the president.
All right, quickly, I want to squeeze one more in. The administration is now paying for advertising in Brazil, several South American countries, and several Central American countries, telling people basically on the radio, do not come, the border is closed, do not come, it's not worth your time. Is that doing enough?
No, and here's why. Look, message is extremely important, Robin. We did that under the Trump administration as well. But here's the key. If your messaging says the exact opposite of your substantive actions, the messaging is useless. It's meaningless. And look,
right.
You on this program have talked about the migrants themselves, what they're specifically saying. They're not hearing the don't come yet. What they're hearing is from their buddies that are texting them saying, if you're a UAC, unaccompanied minor, the border is open. If your family's in multiple areas along the southwest border, the border is open. If you're a former enrollee in the Remain in Mexico program, the borders are open. The secretary is lying when he says the borders are closed. They're open, and they're getting more open every single day.
Mark Morgan, really enjoyed your time this morning. Come back and see us soon. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.